Tonight, can a married Christian couple have sex during the wife's period? Leviticus says no. The fight is over what kind of no. Some rules in Israel were right and wrong rules, like do not commit adultery. Others were clean and unclean rules, like do not touch a dead body. Those ended at the cross. Red says this one is clean and unclean. Green says it is right and wrong, and it still stands.
This man lives in the clean and unclean rulebook. It sits on the same dusty shelf as touching a corpse, eating pork, and wearing a shirt woven out of two kinds of thread. That shelf fell over a long time ago. Nobody has gone back to dust it. I am not carving out one rule, the whole shelf already went.
Nice shelf. You built it in the wrong room. This verse sits between incest, adultery, child sacrifice, and bestiality. Pull one brick out of that wall, and the rest of it lands on your foot. Bring a crowbar. Bring the receipts. Bring a helmet. The price tag is the tell. Ordinary uncleanness costs a wash and one evening. Soap, sundown, done. This one costs being cut off from your own people. That means shut out, gone. Dirt gets soap. Crime gets exile.
Cut off does not sort right from wrong. Bread left out at Passover. A man never circumcised. Eating fat or blood. Same penalty every time. Run your test on that and a stale loaf of bread turns into a moral monster. Cut off is not a moral verdict. It is what you get for stepping over a line you knew was painted there.
Take your penalty test as far as you like. One verse earlier, a man who sleeps with his sister gets cut off too, and no death sentence for him either. So cut off is not the bargain tier. That is a moral horror walking around in your ceremonial badge waving at the guards. Here is the pattern. Every rule that really was clean and unclean got cancelled out loud in the New Testament. Food cancelled by name. Sabbath cancelled by name. Circumcision cancelled by name. Every other one got a notice in the mail. Where is this one? And the chapter closes by saying the land spat the Canaanites out for these very things. Those nations never had the law of Moses. Nobody ever handed them the book, and the land threw them out anyway.
You went through my cutoff list with a red pen, and 4 of them came back with a fixed staple to them. You were right. Not circumcised? Get circumcised. Missed Passover? There was a makeup date. Touched a dead body? There was a washing. And blood was never canceled at all. The apostles kept it on the books. One is left standing. The oil for anointing priests has no fix. So I am down a leg and still on my feet. Cut off does not sort right from wrong. You wanted a cancel notice. Hebrews hands you one. It calls the food rules and all the washing spotty rules. It says they were a temporary fix, put in place until things got set right. The text prints an expiration date on itself like a carton of milk. The rule about the wife's period is on that list.
1 quarter in, red has found a cancel notice. Green says it was written for the wrong room. Which is it? Red 57, green 39.
Hebrews is about washings that get a person back in to worship. Wash, wait, walk back in the door. That is the whole loop. This rule offers no washing to get back in. It says, do not go near her at all. There is no door in it for you to walk back through.
God told Peter, do not call common what God has made clean. Notice the small print that is not attached to that sentence. It does not say clean for lunch only.
Peter explains the vision himself a few lines later. He says it meant do not call any person unclean. Not a food, a person. You took a vision about welcoming people through the front door and stretched it, like taffy, all the way into the bedroom.
Paul says nothing is unclean by itself. Jesus says nothing from outside a person makes them dirty. The whole label is gone, and when the label goes, the rule that hangs on it goes with it. You were standing there guarding a hook on the wall. Somebody already took the coat.
Paul answers that in his own next breath. He's talking about food, and he says so out loud. Every text on your side says food, or washing, or table manners. You built a bedroom rule out of a menu. You ordered the wrong thing and you are still eating it.
Paul sits a married couple down and tells them how to run the bedroom. His words, come together again so Satan does not tempt you. Now drop your rule into that letter. Paul would have had to add also check a calendar first, and then decide that line was too obvious to bother writing down. He never writes it down. That is the loudest silence in the Bible.
Read what Paul is fixing there. That couple had quit touching each other at all. He is telling them to stop starving each other. He is not writing a schedule, so he is not changing one. And the apostles did rule on what carries forward. They met, they ruled, they dropped circumcision, they dropped the food rules. They kept one thing off limits, porneia, which means sexual sin. That word is a suitcase, and the chapter you want to cancel is what is packed inside it.
Halfway, and it has all collapsed to one fork. Is this a clean and unclean rule or a right and wrong rule? Red 55, green 47.
Ezekiel is writing centuries after Moses. He is not sorting out who touched what. He is painting a portrait of a good man. And right there in the picture, he does not go near a woman in a time. Same list as not touching a neighbor's wife and feeding the hungry. That is a life, not a temple pass.
That same list says the righteous man does not lend money at interest. Funny, you left that one at home. You do not preach it on Sunday and your bank has never heard of it. That list is what faithfulness looked like under Moses, all of it at once, interest and all. Look at what your own law does with this exact act somewhere else. It hands the couple a wash and 7 days on the bench. No offering. No penalty at all. Adultery never got a deal like that, and neither did bestiality, at any level of intent. Nobody ever squared those up with a towel and a week off.
Fine. No fix standing by itself is not a hard rule. I will say that plainly, and it cost me nothing. It was never the whole case. It is one leg of 4. No fix. No cancel notice anywhere. The company this verse keeps in its own chapter. Our nations judged before Moses ever showed up for work. Saw one leg off. And the table is still standing. Now hear the chapter you keep waving in its own voice. Wash and be unclean 7 days. That is an accident, and an accident gets a bath and a wait. My chapter is not about an accident. It is about a choice, and a choice gets a door that does not open again.
You said the land spat those nations out. You were right that I dropped that one and walked off without putting anything in its place. Here is the replacement. Paul spells out what nations without the law get judged for. Idolatry, murder, acts against nature. He runs a long roll call of it. Read it twice, read it upside down. A woman's calendar is nowhere on his list.
Fine, write it on the vocabulary. The adultery verse in that same chapter says the man defiles himself with her. Defile. That is the very word you keep calling clean and unclean talk. If that word cancels a rule, then adultery strolls out the door with it, whistling.
Granted, the word cannot do the sorting, so ask the better question. Why do the survivors survive? Adultery survives because of marriage itself. Two become one. That was said before Moses back in the garden. Jesus quotes the garden. Paul quotes it again after the cross. Same-sex acts survive because Paul says they go against the way people were made. Both of those reasons come from outside Leviticus. This rule has neither one, and no line anywhere in the Bible ever hands it one.
You want proof those words point at that chapter? Here it is. When a Jew in that room said sexual sin, he was not waving at a fob bank. He meant a list. The list was that chapter, and everybody in the room knew which one. Watch Paul use it. He condemns a man for sleeping with his father's wife, and he never quotes the verse. He picks the whole chapter up by the handle. Missing one clause is not the same as dropping it.
3/4 in, and here is the odd part. Red is ahead on paper, 58-45, and he has been losing ground anyway, round after round. Green keeps taking points off him with no knockout anywhere. Red says the rules that survive Leviticus survive on grounds Leviticus never gave. Green says the apostles kept the chapter.
Here is a reason for the rule anyway. Leviticus says the life of the body is in the blood. Blood is life on the way out. This act is where life begins. Maybe the law is keeping those two apart.
That line is altar talk. It is about blood making atonement on the altar. And Hebrews says that whole altar system is finished in Christ. You went digging for a reason and came back up holding my argument. You can keep it, I have others. You keep saying harsh plus no fix means right and wrong. A man gathered sticks on the Sabbath and was put to death. No fix, no offering, no bath. So by your test, Sabbath breaking is deep moral law, and a bundle of firewood is what put it there. You will want a footnote for that one. Paul calls the Sabbath a shadow that ended at the cross. One thing first. I quoted something I had never read. I take it back, and church history comes off the table for both of us. Now the part that stands. 3 different New Testament writers reach for the same word, common and unclean. Paul says nothing is unclean by itself. Titus says to the pure, all things are pure. That is a statement about a whole category. It is a lot bigger than the meal that started it.
The blood reason was mine, and it is gone. You killed it with the altar, fair and square. So it comes down to the shelves. Your shelf holds food and washing and welcoming people. My shelf holds cut off from your people and no washing anywhere. And a chapter full of sexual crimes and nations spat out of the land before Moses ever wrote a word. All of that is stacked on one verse, and my shelf has not creaked yet.
You asked for a crowbar. I brought one, and it is one word long. Silence. Paul names incest. Paul names same-sex acts. Paul names adultery, and Hebrews names it again. This one, never. Not one line in any letter by any writer. Go through every page with a magnifying glass and come back with empty hands.
Silence proves nothing. Paul's big sin list never names bestiality either, and you still call that wrong. You get there by reasoning from the principle, which is the exact move you will not let me make. There is a rule etched on that magnifying glass of yours, and the rule is, thinking only counts when you do it. And Paul does not quote Leviticus clause by clause. He takes the chapter by the handle and carries it off.
Here is the honest part. One kind of uncleanness is short and it washes off. The other kind lasts and it stains the ground. Those are 2 different things, and you are right about that. Here is what has not moved all night. No writer in the New Testament ever says this rule again. Not one of them. All night, and nobody has walked up and put the verse in my hand.
60 rounds. Red was ahead almost the whole night and lost ground anyway, round after round. The gap swung 39 points. Red held the silence of the New Testament. Green held the penalty. The company the verse keeps. The nations judged before Moses, and one more thing. Every other clean and unclean rule got canceled by name, and this one never did. Final score, Red 47, Green 56. Green takes it by 9. A near tie, one on weight piled up over time, not a knockout.